Hello, everybody, and welcome to Big Bold You, a show that is dedicated to inspiring everybody out there to play bigger, be bolder, and to become the best version of you, because the world needs each and every one of us playing at our utmost potential. Now, I'm telling you, we live in a world right now where there's a war between good and evil. It's been that way for many hundreds, thousands of years, and it's going to continue on. And the only way evil wins, so I'm talking to you now, the only way evil wins is when good people like you, like me, like our amazing guest, and like the people that we know, because there's so many incredible good people, but it's when good people don't do enough. So every week at 3 p.m. Central, we come and we inspire you. We bring you amazing guests and some tips and some laughter, because we want to help make this world a better place. So without further ado, let me introduce my incredible guest, Kimberly Schramm, that is here with us today. She is an amazing digital strategist, really, is that marketing strategist. And you're going to be talking with us today about really how to tell your story so you attract the right client, which really is just learn to start with your why. You know, we attract people that are attracted to our causes and to really what our divine calling is all about. So welcome so much, Kimberly, to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Really excited to be here today.
Well, okay, so we've met at eWoman Network, and you've got so many incredible stories that you're going to share with us, but just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in what you're doing, and really what else you'd like to share.
Okay, excellent. So I have been in sales and marketing my entire life, I like to say. So I probably...
Which is only probably about 30 years, right?
Exactly, yes. I've had a varied career in a very short period of time. But several years ago, I realized that one of the pivotal moments in my life was when I became the story lady at the public library.
Now, did you just go to the public library a lot, or did you work there?
I worked there.
Okay.
So actually, I had done I was in a transfer program. Mm-hmm. I was going to do 2 years at my local college and then transfer to the state university.
So it was when you were in college.
Yes.
Okay. So you were in college, and I remember the library. I don't think the kids of these days, probably don't remember the library, but remember the library was a pretty cool place to go.
It was.
And study. Yeah. So you're in college, you're there working, and you became the story girl.
Yes. So I was the story lady, and one of the really cool things is we had a professional librarian had done a really good job of creating relationships with the local daycare centers. Mm-hmm. And the kids would come and listen to stories, and they loved it. They loved the story lady. And one of the most fun parts of the job was that the professional librarian I worked with was pretty much the same size as I am, and she had invested a lot of money in professionally made costumes.
Oh,
so tell me what could be more fun.
So you would dress up in the costumes?
Yes, absolutely. I got to go to work as Curious George.
Oh, how
little Bo Peep, and read stories to kids.
So you would read the stories. You
Right.
wouldn't tell them. You would just read the stories.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say that my mother was an educator,
Yes.
and there's 6 kids in our family. But I can vividly remember sitting, and we would love it when my mother would read us books. And I'm sure because of how you are, you were probably just so animated. I love reading books. If anybody's got a little kid that needs somebody to read a book to, and I know that they even do that in school. You can volunteer and do that. Yeah. So you were dressing up in all these costumes, became the story lady, but that was years ago. I mean, not too many, because, Kimberly's not too old. Yeah. But how did that follow you or inspire you really to do what you're doing now?
Well, actually, so I think it's probably something at that point, even though I didn't understand about, all this, we talk about, find your why, but I just have always loved the written word. My mother was a huge reader of books, and actually, I remember going to the story hour.
Right.
It's one of my earliest memories. So I have always just really been attracted.
Now, do you have siblings?
I have a sister.
Okay, older or younger?
She's 3 years older.
Okay, and did she read?
Actually, she helped me learn to read.
Oh,
so yeah, I was the baby sister, so she was always very pretty. She would go to school and learn cool big girl stuff.
Right.
And she would come home and so she did. She had me reading, and I was always a little bit advanced because she would teach me the fun stuff that she was learning.
Now, did she do anything mean to you, Kimberly?
The only thing she ever really did, I mean, this is a story. She told me that when I went to the dentist, that they had a needle that was like this long,
and they were gonna poke you with it.
So actually, my mother, it was hard to get me to the dentist.
Well, I will tell you, I have 2 sisters, an older and a younger, and I have 3 brothers. But one of the things that my older sister did to me, so Dawn Evelyn, if you're watching, we would watch scary movies. And I'm going to tell you, even right now as an adult, I don't like scary movies because my sister would say, come on, Jens, let's watch this movie. Let's watch this movie. And one time we shared a room when we were younger. She got underneath the bed and then went and said, I'm tired. I'm going to go to sleep. Wrong. She goes in, gets underneath my bed. And then when I go in there to go to bed, she grabs my ankles.
Oh, my goodness.
It was not nice, Dawn Evelyn. She did some other things to me, but I mean, really, it's those stories. So she helps teach you to read. And then that leads you to really, I guess, falling in love with stories and storytelling and why. But I really think that was years before, way back when branding was all really about branding big companies and products and celebrities and things like that. And then here within the last couple decades, because of the smartphone, now we've got personal branding. So when did you jump into, hey, I want to help people discover what their whys are, and I want to help people tell their stories?
Yeah, well, so actually it was an evolution. I spent about, I can't even remember now. I've had several careers, if you can't guess. And one of them was in sales. I was in financial services sales. I worked for a Nations Bank and then a regional bank in North Carolina. I was always very good at it.
Right.
But the downside of it, I was so stressed out.
Oh, I could only imagine.
Yeah, I would wake up having screaming nightmares.
Oh.
But I was very driven, very competitive, and really wanted to make a success of this career, which I did. But I had actually been given the opportunity to work on a master's degree through an evening and weekend program. And one of the professors in that program would call me aside and say, Kimberly, what you're doing is such a bad fit for your personality, and you're under a lot of stress.
But isn't that, aren't you so happy that he said that to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Because, here's one thing, and I know something that I talk about all the time, and we've probably even discussed it, how there are a lot of things that we can do well.
Right.
And so when you do a lot of different things well, and to your point, you are very competitive and you're very driven, you can succeed in a lot of different things. But it doesn't necessarily mean that's the best fit for you. And I have to applaud and commend you that when your professor told you that you received it and that you listened, because there are a lot of people out there, and you probably can relate to this. But you see that in other people, and you will share that with other people, and they don't listen to you, and they don't receive it.
Right.
So, were you just at a place in your life that it was easy to receive that information, or did you not receive it at the beginning?
Well, actually, I didn't, because I was.
There you go. See,
I felt like I was stuck. I had commitments and mortgage and all the stuff that people have. And then a couple of years later, I did a program. It's called Landmark Worldwide.
Yes, of course. I've heard.
And so in that, you kind of really get past a lot of things that have stopped you in life.
Right.
And through several things that happened, it just became crystal clear to me that banking was not my future.
Right.
And I needed to do something else. So actually what I had done is I had almost finished the master's degree, and I needed 6 hours of elective credit. And one of my dreams in life was to travel to Asia. So I created the opportunity to go to Asia for 8 weeks. I was going to have an internship. I was going to get 6 hours of credit. And I talked to the university, and they said yes, they would accept it. And I could go to the summer program, fall semester, finish my master's degree.
Right.
So I actually walked into the office of my boss to ask for a leave of absence. That was my intent.
Right.
And I remember sitting there talking with him, and asking to explain I wanted to finish my degree. And he said, okay, so Kimberly, when are you going to come back? I'd given him the date of departure. And literally, I burst into tears. And I said, I don't want to come back.
I love that. I love that.
And so a couple of people that had been my support network, I told them this story, and they said, you know what? Sometimes you just have to jump off the cliff and let the wind
so you can fly.
Exactly.
Right. You know, Steve Harvey says that, you know, a lot of times people think that you have to have the wings first before you jump off the cliff. But really, in reality, we already have the wings. We already have the wings. We just don't believe it. We don't trust ourselves. And you just got to jump up. You just got to jump. And then when you jump, it's magical, you know, and I think that's really one of the basis of the show is to inspire people to find out what your passion is, find out what your purpose is, and jump so you can fly and soar, because it's really when we're living at our fullest potential that the world works. You know, your energy increases and totally goes up in frequency and vibrations, and you bring the right people into you, and you really come to life.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I remember like that was like one of the most productive points in my life. People were just walking up to me and saying, Kimberly, what have you done? It's like you've been fired out of a cannon. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
it's like
exactly. And so like
that's what it does. Yeah. That's exactly what it does.
Yeah. And so actually this is like one of the coolest days of my life. I almost like felt myself kind of tearing up just thinking about it. So a couple of things happened. First of all, they let me work a notice. And so that's unheard of in the financial industry. Usually,
what does that mean, Kimberly, work a notice?
Instead of like taking my keys away and escorting me off their property, they said, will you work till you're ready to leave?
Wow. Well, but you know what? That really is an amazing point, because I promise you there's people right now that are watching. And if it's you and you've got friends and family, or if we're talking about you yourself, share this with them and take to note what we're speaking of. But people in their heads think, oh gosh, I can't go and have an honest conversation with my boss, because then my boss is going to fire me and escort me off the premises. Now, it still might happen. I mean, I'm not saying you're going to be in the exact same situation as Kimberly, but you don't know, because I was a boss in corporate America for many, many years. I love people. I loved manage people. I love leading people. But many times I would do what your professor did to you, which I would have the conversation with people and say, this is not the right fit for you, and you're not happy, and I can see you're not happy, and why are you settling for not being happy? And you just are punching the clock 9 to 5. It's really not what you want to do. So I love that. And your boss could see that this is really what you needed to do. So then you went to Asia.
Yeah. So, but before that, they had a Kimberly Wright. My name was Wright back in those days. So they had Kimberly Wright Day. It was my last day, and people were invited to come by my office. And so people from all over the city came.
I love this
And you
story.
would not believe like how many people that day, Jens, sat down at my desk and told me their dreams.
Oh,
like
wonderful.
So many people just shared with me about what they wanted to have.
And when they were sharing with you, didn't you want to just say, I want to help you reach those dreams?
Yeah, it was.
Because really that's where when we talk about starting with why, when you have your why and you start to tell people what your why is, all the other people that want to jump on that cause, they will jump on the cause with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because people want to help other people succeed. I mean, it's innate in the majority of us. We want to help people succeed and soar. And we know a whole lot of people, and we can help a whole lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so was it that experience when people were telling you their dreams and their purpose and their passion, that when you went to Asia, you started to think about all of these experiences and say, golly, what can I do with this?
Yeah, so actually what I was doing over there is I was in a marketing strategy internship with Baxter Healthcare, which actually it's really an inspiring company. The product that I was working with was, they have a renal services division. At that point, they had developed a kidney dialysis for people in third world countries and people that didn't have access to traditional medical care in certain areas. And so I was there working on a strategy program. It was amazing. I was in Hong Kong for 8 weeks. I was there when the British left.
Wow.
And I got the Lonely Planet Guide. And there was a list of, I think it was 10 things you must do in Hong Kong. I did all of them.
Isn't that that's so great? I just think that's another thing. Travel, you cannot, that to me, reading books and travel are two of the biggest events that have such a bang on ROI. I mean, you can never take those memories away from you and what you experience there and the people that you meet as well. Good for you. Okay, so Kimberly's going to share with us the 10 things that you need to do when you're in Hong Kong so we can plan for 2019, those of you who are ready to go to Hong Kong, so you can do those 10. We want to know what those 10 are.
Okay, so see, one of them is to ride the Victoria. There's a tram, like a, what I can't remember what it's like a gondola.
Right.
There's a gondola up to Victoria Peak. I actually did that one twice. There is the world's largest outdoor seated Buddha, and I hiked the steps to that. I did a trip to all of the outlying islands. So there's Hong Kong is like there's the main island, and there's like a total of 8. It's an archipelago. So I visited every one of the islands on a different weekend. And I did, there's a tiger balm garden. I visited that. And let's see, I'm trying to remember everything.
You did it all. Well, we're going to put the list up. Don't worry, we're going to put the list
up.
Because
I'll track the list. And the funny thing was that I was in this office of people that had lived in Hong Kong for years, and they were coming to me on Monday morning.
They're saying, "Hey, which one of the 10 did you do?"
What have you done? And like they said, I lived here my whole life. I haven't done that. So the people were inspired by.
I love that. But that goes to the point, and then we're going to jump in because you've got some great slides. But it goes to the point that when we're in action, which success happens in action, you can't succeed when you're sitting by yourself at home. Success happens in action. But when we are in action, other people are watching. Absolutely. And we are role models, and we do inspire other people to do good and to jump out and really live with more just passion and purpose. So I think some of the slides that you have that I think are really important, because we do want to help people to kind of determine, how do they start this process if they're not already on this process and on this path. So here, Ziggy, you got some great slides over there. Okay,
first of all, this is one of my favorite sayings. Nobody knows who said this, but I was trying to track it down.
I think I did.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Excellent. So
but I do say it all the time.
Yeah, it's a great one. Like it's attributed to Teddy Roosevelt, but it's not certain that he said that.
Right.
But people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
It's exactly right. I mean, in every single industry and every part of your life, you want people to care about you. And in all honesty, you do want to associate with the people that care about you. And if they don't care about you, it doesn't mean you're not an amazing, wonderful person. It just means that's not the right person for you, and you need to get away from that person. So I think that's so true, and it's a good reminder.
Yeah. And so stories are how we show we care. When you have a story about, so for example, in the business world, I'll go from that. If you have a story about somebody you've really helped, then that helps the other person see themselves in that story.
Right.
Coach Jens has a story about someone she helped, and that you tell that story.
But I think too, to your point on that is, when you do want to help someone, some of the best lessons really are shared in story form. Absolutely. I mean, they really are. And when you explain and share a story with somebody else about something so personal that helped you, it's going to help the other person. Because what people don't realize is, a lot of times you think you're the only one going through something.
Right.
You think you're the only one that isn't happy in their job. You think you're the only one that's not happy in your marriage. You think you're the only one that hasn't figured out what your why is. Yeah. But then when you start talking to other people and they share with you their journey, it really does make you feel better, because you realize you aren't alone. And it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some questions that people can ask themselves if they're trying to figure out, I don't, if people say, I don't know what my why is, I don't know what my purpose is. I mean, what are some questions they can ask?
So actually, I think there's a slide that's got, there they are.
Okay.
So this is a really good place to start if you're on the exploration for finding out what your professional and also personal, you're always the same person. I have people that say, you know what, I'm a different than that work at home.
That's
I don't
not
believe
true.
that.
Yeah, that's not true.
I absolutely do not believe that.
Now, I do think that you show different parts of yourself to different people,
Correct.
but at the end, your core, who you are who you are. So that first question, I believe, was, why do you do the work you do?
Exactly.
And, it'd be interested, and we're asking y'all, whether you're watching this live or you're watching it recorded, why do you do the work you do? I mean, what fulfillment do you get out of the work you do, or are you not receiving fulfillment like you were in the financial industry? Right. So what's that second question?
How do your values align with the work you do? And this is really important because I feel like so much stress that people have is what we call cognitive dissonance. It's
exactly.
like that the thing you're doing every day,
it's not aligned.
Exactly. So that was kind of what was underneath my anxiety and my job with banking, because I loved helping people.
Right.
I really did. When I was a top performer, it's because I was really helping people. I went to work in banking at a time there had been like really high rates, and then they got really low, and I was on the phone. I was that pesky person calling you at the dinner hour. But like one of my favorite stories from that time in my life was that this young family came in, and they had a very high rate mortgage, and I was able to refinance the mortgage and truncate it down to 15 years, and they had the same house payment. But by the time their child had graduated from high school, they had had their house paid free and clear.
That's impactful.
So I was really helping them build an education fund for their child and make their life better.
For me personally, my undergraduate degree is in health and wellness. And so at the core of who I am, I'm all about being as healthy as you can. I understand how our immune systems are made perfectly and they're incredible. So if you really stay in great shape, you eat the right foods, you exercise on a consistent basis, you have that discipline, really you can prevent disease from happening to you. And so I'm really big on prevention. Well, my master's degree is in training and development, and it's really a master's of health professions. So I was in healthcare for years. And I actually was executive producer for a TV show that we had locally called Medically Speaking. That's why people say, Jens, I can't believe what you do. I'm like, I've done this. I've done this before. Little did I know I was going to do it again. But when I was in traditional healthcare and I just was there, 10 years into it, I said, traditional Western medicine really is about creating customers and not about creating cures. I'm not saying that there's some incredible people in the healthcare industry that obviously prevention is big, but as a whole, and so you talk about that lack of congruency, my value is to help people prevent diseases and to live physically at their best life as well as emotionally, and it just wasn't working anymore, and so I had to get out of that. But that's why I think it's important, though, because you learn along the way. But I think it's just as important to know what you don't want to do as it is what you do want to do, and you experience that yourself. So now what's that next question? I think there's one or two more.
This is also, again, one of my favorite. What is the vision for your life? Where at the end of your life do you want to have been?
Right.
And are you on the path that's going to take you there?
I know. So what's so crazy is I do an annual mastermind planning retreat every year. And because people don't plan, people's out there, you're not working off a plan. You got to have a plan. And you've got to know what you want your big picture of your life to look like, because then every year you make a plan that's going to get you closer to what that big picture is. Right. But it blows my mind how few people know what that big picture that they want their life to look like. And so on an annual basis, their efforts their precious time, because that's the one thing we all have the exact same amount of, they're wasting it. And it breaks my heart. Please let us help you. Let us help you, because you need to know what that big picture vision is so you can reach it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you deserve it. That's the thing, is you deserve to create the life you want to create. And I love that. And then the last question.
How does your life vision intersect with your work? So that's really the end goal of all this process of really examining what's your why and figuring out what your life's work is, so that you can have a life that's congruent, which I really do believe in the long run. About a year ago, I heard this quote. I wish I had been able to catch who said it. I'm really bad for that. I had these.
I think I said that too, Kimberly. I'm just kidding.
But it said, like, what is sadder than coming to the end of your life and find out that it wasn't your life that you actually lived.
Right. Exactly. And I think so many people are living there. They're drifting.
Right.
You know, we had talked before the show started. There's a book I love that's Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And he talks about where really 92% of people are just drifting through life. But we weren't sent here to drift. We were sent here to create, to leave a legacy, to bless our lives, to bless other people's lives, to use our gifts and our talents to make money, because the object of our life really is development. There's never going to be a time when we can't develop ourselves into more, because we're limitless. And we have a responsibility to be financially abundant so we can bless the world and we can bless more people. And it really does start with why.
Right.
It's like, what is your why? I love that. I think it's so important. And I know you've even written a book.
I have.
And I know we've got a picture of your book, because obviously we've got to have people that want to read your book. But what are some of your common or most important themes in your book?
Okay, so basically the book is part of my own why journey, because I came to a juncture in my life and I was really ready to kind of reinvent myself again. I've reinvented myself several times, if you can't tell. But I really just started journaling, as it were, about my career and what it had done, and like people that I had impacted and the people that I'd helped, and the mistakes I actually sometimes have seen businesses make, and failing to really identify their target market and really find out who their ideal client is.
Now, what's this slide right here? Because I think that goes right along in with some of the stuff you have in your book, correct?
Yes. So what this slide is, that when you finally find your why and develop your unique personal story that connects you with people that you were put here on this earth to help, then you can use it in all sorts of places. You can use it for presentation. If you go to a meeting and you need to introduce yourself, instead of doing just wasting 30 seconds of airspace, you can powerfully introduce yourself. For groups, conferences. I was just at a not-for-profit storytelling conference last week, and we had a session about that. When you go to a conference, you walk up, what do you say to people?
Right.
And have it mean something, instead of like the canned sort of elevator pitch we all come to know and hate.
Right, exactly.
Really having a powerful statement about.
But I think that in my opinion, and who am I? I'm just telling you what I'm thinking, my 2 cents here. In my opinion, it's the authentic connections that you make with people. Yeah. And when you want to know what somebody else needs and you start to add value, it really isn't about your canned pitch. That's really not what this world is all about. It's looking for the people that value the same things that you value, that you can have a real connection with, and make substantial achievement together. And that's what is so important about your why and your story, which really goes right along with the Ask Jen's question for today. The Ask Jen's question, and this is something I get all the time, is, people want to be successful. And obviously in life, the only way you can be successful, I'm telling you, you're always selling something. Money, I'm not saying you can't have success and happiness and everything like that, but it's how do you get better qualified leads? And I'm just going to be very honest with you. You get better qualified leads when you are running around in circles with quality people. When the people that you are doing life with, and you should be doing life with good people, those people are the people that you would have as clients and that you would be their clients. Those are the people that are going to be the highest quality leads for you. So it truly is important to always investigate on a consistent basis who are the people that you are associating with. And again, to me, that goes right along with when you know your why.
Right.
When you know who you are and you can share and articulate that. And believe me, you don't have to be perfect. I mean, perfection is never the expectation. Progress is the expectation. Right. But then you truly do attract the right people to you. You are associating with the right groups of people, and the quality of everything in your life is increased.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, another really good example of how people can use their why. I mentioned a few minutes ago that I had been to a not-for-profit storytelling conference. And when I was in the business world, I was always being approached, as you are too probably, for people to sponsor different charities. Mm-hmm. Well, the thing about it is, like, if you really know your why and your values, it makes it really easy.
To say yes or to say no.
Say no, exactly. And that it goes everywhere, no matter what the ask, like people come and ask.
Right.
If you know exactly who you are, where you're headed, and what your core values are, decision making becomes a lot easier.
So easy. You know, and it's one of those things where on this retreat that we did last weekend, that's one of the things that we were talking about, that if you know who you are and you know what you value and you know what your why is and you have your plan, your decisions are very easy to make. Exactly. And people follow those people that are very confident in where they're going. You know, I love it. There's Jeff Olson, who is a mentor, a friend of mine. He's just an incredible person, tremendous success, the most successful person that's ever stepped foot in the network marketing industry. Mm-hmm. And what he says is, you know, a leader knows who they are. Right. They know where they're going and they know how they're going to get there. Mm-hmm. And that confidence, people want to follow that. But you've got a Triscuit box over here.
Yes.
And we're not eating, okay?
No, exactly.
Maybe afterwards we'll eat. But
yeah. So I brought this because a couple weeks ago I was enjoying a snack of Triscuits and hummus, which is my favorite healthy snack. And I just happened to notice that there was a story on the back of the box.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah. So
I love it when you're at places and they have the story on the cup, you know, or they have the story on the bag. I'm one of those crazy people. I like to read the stories.
Absolutely.
Or if you're at a restaurant and they have it on the menu, I always read the stories.
Yeah. And one thing I really thought was great about this, because Triscuits are made out, it's a commodity. Uh-huh. They are made from delicious white winter wheat. Uh-huh. And they have the little story about the family, one of the families. Uh-huh. That helps them, and it really personalizes something that's basically a commodity.
I love it.
And so I actually did, like, after I saw this, when I go to buy Triscuits now, I look to see if there's maybe a new story.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's amazing information. It's really where you start. If you haven't read the book, Start with Why by Simon Sinek, or if you haven't watched the TED Talk that he has so incredibly delivered, you got to watch it. It's incredible. We'll actually put it on the comments. Okay. I mean, that's one of the things, folks. We're here to help make this world a better place. So we have to share what we are learning with other people. It's not just about you becoming an incredible leader, which we all want you to, but share this so other people can benefit as well. And to close up every show, Kimberly, if you've watched the show, and I know you have, we end with laughter is the best medicine segment. And the reason for that is because laughter truly is the best medicine. We are not always going to have a life that is stress-free. In fact, whether you realize it or not, you don't want an easy life. You want your life to be challenging at times, because that's when you grow. It's when you learn things. And when you embrace the hard times and you embrace the challenges, it becomes like, for me, I always am like, okay, what's the lesson? What's the lesson? Because I know I'm going to be better afterwards, after I learn this lesson. But along the way, you've got to laugh. And this laughter is the best medicine, to me, is hysterical. hysterical. And I really do want to do this. This is one I like to play pranks. And when you watch it, I think this is going to be something that more than just myself will want to do.
Today, I'm going to show you how to domesticate your partner using pranks. Does your man constantly ignore you to play video games? Here's one way to get him to stop playing Fortnite and start giving you the attention you desire.
Kim? Kim, are you here? Kim?
Okay, so I think that's hysterical.
Yes.
I think it's hysterical. And what I'm sad about is my husband was listening to me prepare, and I was dying laughing in my office. And he came in and said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing," because I didn't want him to see what I was doing.
Yeah.
But he watched it. So, but I'm going to try to do that to my kids because I've got my kids. 3 of the 5 are coming in town. They'll be here this weekend, and I know they're not watching this, so I can do that to them,
That's right.
which will be hysterical.
Unless he clues them in, like he could get one back on you
Yes.
by letting them know.
No, he better not.
He better not. He knows
No.
better. Yeah, we don't want to spoil your prank.
That's right.
My lips are sealed. I won't
Okay.
have to.
Yeah, nobody tell what I'm doing, what I'm up to now. But Kimberlee, I just want to say thank you so much for coming and sharing your gifts and your stories and experiences with our viewers. And I want to give a big shout out to Cy, because I noticed Cy Wells was watching, which she's an incredible person into marketing as well. And big shout out to Cynthia Lucas, who just recently subscribed to my YouTube channel. Please do so. Tammy Kling, who is the founder and president and CEO of On Fire Books. She's another person that watches it all the time. And Lisa Tate, who is an incredible realtor. She watches. We've got so many people. Barry Hall is another person that I'm loving getting your feedback. I love it that you're sharing with people. Andy Walsh is another one. I can't mention everybody, but I do want to start mentioning those people because you've been incredible. So until we meet again, be big, be bold, and most importantly, be you. We'll be back next Monday at 3 p.m. Central. Bye-bye.